Dr. Elise Marlowe sat alone in her dimly lit laboratory, the rhythmic hum of machines filling the silence. She had spent years studying the stars, searching for answers to questions no one else seemed to care about. But tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't just observing distant galaxies. She was trying to talk to them. Her prototype deep space communication device blinked faintly as it scanned frequencies beyond human comprehension. It was an experiment born out of desperation, a way to cope with the grief that had consumed her since her husband's death. The room grew colder without warning. A strange vibration rippled through the air, causing the equipment to flicker wildly. Elise froze, her breath catching in her throat. Before she could react, a blinding flash erupted from the center of the lab. Instinctively, she shielded her eyes, heart pounding like a drum. When the light faded, she lowered her arm and gasped. Standing before her was a figure unlike anything she'd ever seen. Its form shimmered with an iridescent glow, shifting colors like sunlight on water. Though humanoid, its features were otherworldly. Elongated limbs, smooth skin that seemed to absorb and reflect light, and eyes that glowed softly like twin moons. Elise stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a stack of papers. "Do not fear," the being said, its voice resonating in her mind rather than her ears. "I mean you no harm." Elise blinked, struggling to process what was happening. "Who, or what are you?" she managed to ask, her voice trembling. "I am Callan of the Varith," the creature replied. "My people are in dire need of assistance. I have come seeking help from those who still hold hope in their hearts." Elise frowned, skepticism creeping into her thoughts. "Why me? Why Earth?" Callan tilted his head slightly, as if considering how best to explain. "Your world is unique, a fragile yet resilient haven amidst chaos. And you, Dr. Marlowe, possess knowledge and determination that few others do. We require your expertise to save my daughter, and by extension, my people." "Your daughter?" Elise echoed, confusion written across her face. "She has been stranded here for many cycles, unaware of her true origins. Without her, we cannot complete our mission." Callan paused, then added, "If you aid us, I will grant your deepest wish. Anything you desire." Elise hesitated. The scientist in her wanted to dismiss this encounter as some elaborate hallucination brought on by exhaustion. Yet something about Callan's presence felt undeniably real. And his words stirred something deep within her, a longing she had buried long ago. Could he truly bring back her husband, or at least give her closure? "What makes you think I'll believe you?" she asked cautiously. Callan extended a slender hand, palm upward. A small holographic image materialized above it, a young woman with striking blue-green eyes and hair that caught the light like liquid silver. "This is Lyra. She lives among your kind, believing herself to be human. Find her, and you will see I speak the truth." Elise stared at the image, feeling a mix of curiosity and unease. This could all be madness, or it could be the adventure of a lifetime. Either way, she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't ignore this chance. "Fine," she said finally, crossing her arms. "Tell me where to start." Callan's expression softened, though it was hard to read emotions on such an alien face. "You will know when you find her. Trust your instincts. They will guide you." As Callan vanished in another burst of light, leaving Elise alone once more, she realized her quiet life was about to change forever. Whatever lay ahead, she couldn't turn back now. The next morning, Elise found herself standing on the edge of a rocky cliff overlooking the ocean. Callan had given her only one clue about Lyra's whereabouts. She lived near the water, drawn to its mysteries as if by instinct. Elise scanned the horizon, her mind racing with possibilities. How would she even begin to find someone who didn't know they were an alien? And how could she convince them to trust her? Her first lead came unexpectedly. While reviewing local news articles for anything unusual, missing persons, strange sightings, or unexplained phenomena, Elise stumbled upon a profile of Dr. Lyra Callahan, a marine biologist known for her groundbreaking work on coral reef restoration. The photo accompanying the article stopped her cold. Though Lyra looked older than the hologram Kalen had shown her, there was no mistaking those luminous eyes. Determined to investigate further, Elise visited the research facility where Lyra worked. It wasn't hard to spot her. Lyra stood knee-deep in the shallows, collecting samples with quiet precision. Her movements were graceful, almost otherworldly, and Elise couldn't help but notice the faint shimmer of light dancing across her skin when the sun hit it just right. She approached cautiously, not wanting to startle the young woman. "Excuse me," Elise called out, her voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside her. "Are you Dr. Callahan?" Lyra turned, brushing strands of damp hair from her face. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" "I'm Dr. Elise Marlowe." She introduced herself, extending a hand. "I'm an astrophysicist, though my current project is, well, let's say it's interdisciplinary." Lyra raised an eyebrow, but shook her hand. "Astrophysics and marine biology don't usually overlap. What brings you here?" Elise hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "It's complicated, but I think you might have information that could help me, or rather, help someone very important." Lyra frowned, clearly skeptical. "Look, I appreciate curiosity, but I'm busy. If this isn't related to marine ecosystems, maybe we can talk another time." Elise sighed, realizing subtlety wouldn't work. "What if I told you that you're not entirely human?" The words hung in the air like thunderclouds. For a moment, Lyra simply stared at her, disbelief etched into every line of her face. Then she laughed, a sharp, incredulous sound. "Not human. Seriously, that's your pitch?" "It's true," Elise insisted, lowering her voice. "You've probably noticed things about yourself that don't make sense. Strange dreams, maybe, or moments when you feel different." Lyra's laughter faded, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. She opened her mouth to respond but stopped abruptly, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. Something in her expression shifted, as though memories were surfacing that she'd long buried. "You're wrong," she said finally, though her tone lacked conviction. "I'm just a scientist trying to protect the reefs. Nothing more." But Elise wasn't ready to give up. Over the following days, she followed Lyra discreetly, observing her routines and gathering evidence. One evening, while Lyra was working late in her lab, Elise noticed something extraordinary. Faint bioluminescent patterns glowing on her arms as she focused intently on a microscope. When Lyra caught sight of them reflected in the glass, she gasped, startled. "What is happening to me?" she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Elise stepped forward, holding up her hands in a gesture of peace. "Let me explain. Please, you're not imagining these things. They're real, and I can help you understand why." Reluctantly, Lyra agreed to listen. As Elise recounted everything Callan had told her, Lyra's initial resistance began to crumble. Pieces of her life suddenly made sense. The vivid dreams of crystalline cities, the inexplicable pull toward the stars, the feeling of being out of place no matter where she went. By the end of the conversation, tears streamed down her face. "I don't know what to do," Lyra admitted softly. "If what you're saying is true, then who am I?" "You're Lyra," Elise replied gently. "And you're stronger than you realize. Together, we'll figure this out." For the first time, Lyra nodded, not fully convinced, but willing to take the first step into the unknown. As days turned into weeks, Lyra, now aware of her true identity as Lyra, began to experience changes she couldn't ignore. Her dreams grew more vivid, filled with haunting images of collapsing stars and desperate cries for help. During the day, her body reacted strangely to certain stimuli. Sunlight sometimes caused faint patterns to glow on her skin, and electrical devices around her would flicker without warning. Elise assured her these were signs of her Varith heritage awakening, but it was Callan who provided clarity when he appeared again. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Callan materialized in Elise's lab. This time, his presence felt heavier, burdened by urgency. "The situation is worse than I feared," he said, his glowing eyes locking onto Lyra. "The Xeric have begun their hunt." "The Xeric?" Elise asked sharply. "A ruthless species that seeks to destroy us," Kellen explained. "They believe we possess an ancient artifact called the Solithar, capable of reshaping galaxies. Though the Solithar was lost eons ago, the Xeric refused to abandon their pursuit. Now they've traced whispers of its existence to Earth, and to you, Lyra." Lyra recoiled, fear flashing across her face. "Why me? I don't even know what this Solithar is." Kalen hesitated before answering. "Because fragments of our technology are embedded within you, dormant until now. They act as a beacon. If the Xeric detect your signal, they will stop at nothing to capture you." Elise stepped forward, her voice firm despite the dread creeping into her chest. "Then we need to move quickly. What can we do to protect her and Earth?" Kalen nodded grimly. "We must awaken your full potential, Lyra. Only then can you shield yourself from their detection. But be warned, this process will not be easy. It requires tapping into memories and abilities buried deep within you." Though hesitant, Lyra agreed. Under Kalen's guidance, Elise used modified versions of her lab equipment to stimulate Lyra's latent Verith traits. At first, the sessions were painful. Lyra writhed as waves of energy coursed through her, unlocking flashes of her past life among the stars. She saw glimpses of crystalline cities bathed in eternal light, heard echoes of laughter shared with others like her, and felt the warmth of belonging she'd never known on Earth. But with each session came greater awareness and greater danger. Strange phenomena began occurring across the planet. Ships vanished mid-ocean, leaving behind only static-filled distress calls. Seismic activity spiked in regions previously stable, accompanied by eerie energy signatures detected by observatories worldwide. News outlets buzzed with speculation about extraterrestrial involvement, while governments scrambled to prepare for the unknown. One night, as Lyra walked along the beach near her research site, she sensed something watching her. Shadows moved unnaturally beneath the moonlight, and the air crackled with tension. Suddenly, a figure emerged, a towering insectoid creature with gleaming black armor and multifaceted eyes that glowed red. It raised a weapon, aiming directly at her. Before it could fire, a burst of light erupted between them, forcing the creature to retreat. Kalen appeared beside Lyra, his form shimmering with protective energy. "They've found you," he said gravely. "We must leave Earth immediately." Lyra shook her head, panic rising. "No, I can't just run. I have responsibilities here. And if you stay, the Xeric will destroy everything you hold dear," Kellen countered, "including this planet." Torn between duty and survival, Lyra looked to Elise for guidance. The scientist placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're stronger than you think, Lyra. You can fight this, not just for yourself, but for everyone. Trust me." With a heavy heart, Lyra nodded. Together, they prepared to confront the looming threat, knowing the fate of two worlds now rested in their hands. The journey to the Verith fleet was unlike anything Lyra had ever experienced. Catelyn opened a shimmering portal in Elise's lab, its surface rippling like liquid silver. As they stepped through, Lyra felt as though she were being pulled apart and reassembled at the molecular level. When the sensation faded, she found herself aboard a massive spacecraft orbiting Earth. The interior glowed with soft, bioluminescent light, and the air hummed with an energy that seemed alive. Elise stared in awe, her scientific mind struggling to comprehend the advanced technology surrounding them. This is incredible," she murmured, running her fingers over a smooth metallic wall that pulsed faintly under her touch. Lyra, however, felt out of place. The Verith crew moved gracefully around her, their forms glowing faintly as they worked. Though they resembled Kalen, there was something distant about them, like they belonged to a world she could never fully understand. She glanced at her own hands, still marked by faint traces of bioluminescence, and wondered if she'd ever truly fit in here. Captain Sorrel greeted them shortly after their arrival. Unlike Callan's calm demeanor, Sorrel radiated intensity. Her sharp features and piercing gaze made it clear she wasn't someone to be trifled with. Yet, when she addressed Lyra, her voice softened, though only slightly. "So this is the lost daughter," she said, studying Lyra closely. "You look more human than I expected." "I am human," Lyra replied defensively, crossing her arms. "At least I thought I was." Sorrel smirked but didn't press further. Instead, she turned to Callan. "We don't have much time. The Xeric are closing in on Earth, and our resources are dwindling. What's the plan?" Callan nodded gravely. "Lyra is key to finding the Solithar. Its creators hid it somewhere accessible only to those with Verith blood. And humans." He looked at Elis meaningfully. "Together, we must locate it before the Xeric do." Over the next few days, the group devised a strategy. They would follow clues left behind by the ancient beings who once visited Earth, traveling to distant planets where fragments of the Solithar might be hidden. Each destination promised danger, but also hope. As preparations began, Lyra struggled to adapt. The Verith treated her with a mix of curiosity and caution, unsure how to interact with someone so different from themselves. Captain Sorrel, in particular, tested her patience. During training exercises designed to awaken her latent abilities, Sorrel pushed Lyra harder than anyone else, often leaving her exhausted and frustrated. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Lyra confronted Sorrel. "Why are you always so hard on me?" she demanded, her voice trembling with anger. "Do you think I'm not good enough?" Sorrel studied her for a moment before responding. "I think you're stronger than you realize, Lyra, but strength comes from facing challenges head-on. If you want to survive what's coming, you'll need every ounce of resilience you can muster." Her words struck a chord. For the first time, Lyra saw Sorrel not as an adversary, but as someone who believed in her potential, even if she showed it in unconventional ways. Meanwhile, Elise discovered something astonishing while analyzing data collected by the Verith. Fragments of the Solithar weren't scattered randomly across the galaxy. They formed a pattern leading back to Earth itself. "It's like the artifact was meant to return here someday," she explained to Callan. "Maybe your people knew Earth would play a role in its recovery." Callan's expression darkened. "If that's true, then Earth isn't just a refuge. It's ground zero. We must protect it at all costs." As the ship prepared to leave orbit, Lyra stood by a viewport, gazing down at the blue-green planet below. Despite everything, Earth still felt like home. She vowed silently to defend it, no matter what lay ahead. With engines roaring to life, the Verith vessel launched into the stars, carrying its unlikely crew toward destiny. Little did they know, betrayal lurked within their ranks, a spy feeding information to the Xeric. Their journey was far from safe, and the galaxy held secrets darker than any of them imagined. The cavern fell silent, save for the soft hum of the crystalline artifact. Kale stood motionless, his hand still hovering where Leora's had been moments before. The warmth she'd left behind pulsed gently in his chest, a quiet reminder of her presence and her sacrifice. Though grief weighed heavily on him, he couldn't afford to linger. The glacier groaned around him, its ancient ice shifting as the artifact worked to stabilize the planet. Kale stepped back, watching as the crystal's glow spread outward, seeping into the walls and floor of the cavern. Tiny fractures began to form along the ice, glowing faintly like veins of light. Slowly, the frozen expanse started to melt, not violently, but with a serene inevitability, as if the glacier itself were exhaling after centuries of holding its breath. Rivulets of water trickled down the walls, pooling at Cal's feet. He could feel the change in the air. It was warmer now, carrying the faint scent of something green and alive. As he made his way out of the cavern, the transformation continued. Where once there had been barren frost, patches of moss and lichen began to emerge, clinging stubbornly to the newly exposed rock. The twin suns above seemed brighter somehow, their pale light casting long shadows across the landscape. It wasn't spring yet, but it was a beginning. When Cal returned to the colony, he found the settlers gathered near the perimeter, gazing in awe at the changes spreading across Glacis 9. Dr. Elira Cade approached him, her face lit with wonder. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't," Cal replied simply. "She did." Elira didn't press further. Instead, she placed a hand on his shoulder, offering silent support. Over the following days, news of the planet's awakening spread through the colony. The corporation's forces withdrew, their equipment rendered useless by the thawing ice and unpredictable weather patterns. Without the resources or manpower to continue their operation, they abandoned Glacis 9 entirely, leaving the settlers to rebuild in peace. Life in the colony improved almost immediately. With the melting glaciers came fresh water, fertile soil, and even traces of edible plants that hinted at the possibility of agriculture. For the first time since arriving on Glacis 9, the colonists dared to hope, not just for survival, but for prosperity. Cale became a reluctant hero among them, though he shied away from praise. Instead, he spent much of his time exploring the newly revealed terrain, searching for signs of Leora's people. He found remnants of their civilization scattered across the land, crumbling ruins adorned with intricate carvings, bioluminescent flora that glowed softly in the twilight. Each discovery filled him with a mix of reverence and sorrow, knowing how close humanity had come to repeating their mistakes. In quiet moments, Cale would sit by the water's edge, staring at his reflection. Sometimes, he thought he saw Leora's face shimmering faintly beneath the surface, her silver blue eyes watching over him. Other times, he felt her presence in the wind, her laughter carried softly on the breeze. She was gone, but not truly lost. Her essence lived on in the renewed world around him, and in the warmth that still lingered in his heart. Years passed, and New Haven flourished. The settlers named the thawed region Leora's Vale, in honor of the guardian who had sacrificed everything to save them. They built monuments to her memory, telling stories of her courage and wisdom to future generations. And though Cale grew older, he never stopped feeling the pull of the ice, the connection to a woman who had changed him, and the planet, forever. Glacis 9 entered a new era of harmony, its people forever grateful for the woman whose lips brought freezing death, but whose heart brought eternal warmth. This version is approximately 450 words, written in simple yet engaging third-person prose. Let me know if you'd like adjustments. The Varith vessel soared through the vast expanse of space, its sleek design slicing effortlessly through cosmic winds. For Lyra, the journey was a blur of wonder and terror. Each new world they visited brought breathtaking sights. Nebula that shimmered like jewels, planets with skies painted in hues no human eye could replicate, but also perilous challenges that tested her resolve. Their first stop was a desolate planet called Cythera, known for its sentient storms. As soon as they landed, the air crackled with electricity, and towering clouds gathered ominously on the horizon. Kalen warned them to stay alert. "These storms are alive," he said gravely. "They will test your courage and your unity." True to his words, the storm descended upon them moments later, swirling violently around the group. Bolts of lightning struck the ground mere feet away, forcing them to huddle together for safety. But it wasn't just physical danger they faced. The storm seemed to probe their minds, amplifying their deepest fears. Illis saw visions of her husband slipping further out of reach, while Sorrel relived memories of battles lost and comrades fallen. Even Kalen appeared shaken, haunted by guilt over past decisions. For Lyra, the storm conjured images of herself standing alone between two worlds, belonging to neither. She felt torn apart, unsure where she truly fit. But then, amidst the chaos, she heard a voice, not her own, yet familiar. It whispered, "Asterisk, you are stronger than you know," asterisk summoning every ounce of determination. Lyra stepped forward, raising her hands toward the churning sky. To everyone's astonishment, The storm began to calm, retreating into silence as though acknowledging her strength. Though shaken, the group pressed onward. Their next destination was even more daunting, a crumbling temple buried beneath the sands of an ancient desert planet. According to Callan, this ruin had been built by the creators of the Solithar, who left behind cryptic clues to guide future seekers. But entering the temple proved treacherous. The halls were lined with lethal traps, pressure plates that triggered collapsing ceilings, walls that shifted unpredictably, and beams of light that burned anything they touched. Elise's scientific mind became invaluable here. Using her knowledge of patterns in physics, she deciphered the mechanisms guarding each chamber. At one point, when a trap nearly trapped Lyra under a falling pillar, Sorrel leaped into action, shoving her out of harm's way without hesitation. The moment passed quickly, but it marked a turning point in their relationship. Sorrel's gruff exterior softened slightly, and Lyra began to trust her more deeply. Finally, they reached the heart of the temple, a massive chamber illuminated by glowing runes etched into the floor. In the center stood a pedestal holding a fragment of the Solithar, a shard of crystal pulsating with raw energy. But retrieving it required solving a final puzzle. The runes rearranged themselves constantly, forming equations too complex for any single mind to solve. That's when Lyra realized what needed to be done. Together, she said firmly, looking at each member of the group, "We can do this, if we work as one." Under Lyra's guidance, they combined their strengths. Elise calculated mathematical sequences, Sorrel interpreted spatial alignments, Callan translated alien symbols, and Lyra wove their efforts into a cohesive solution. When the last rune clicked into place, the pedestal opened, revealing the shard. As Lyra grasped it, a surge of power coursed through her, filling her with both awe and dread. But victory was short-lived. Back aboard the ship, tensions flared when Callan discovered encrypted messages being sent from within their ranks. Someone had been leaking information to the Jarek all along. Before they could confront the traitor, alarms blared. A Jarek fleet had tracked them down. "We're surrounded," Sorrel shouted, rushing to the command deck. Explosions rocked the ship as enemy vessels fired relentlessly. Lyra clutched the shard tightly, feeling its warmth against her palm. They had come so far, only to face annihilation. Yet as she looked at her companions, each fighting fiercely despite overwhelming odds, she knew one thing for certain: giving up was not an option. "Hold on," Callan yelled, activating emergency protocols. With a burst of speed, the ship broke free from the ambush, narrowly escaping destruction. But the betrayal weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Who among them had betrayed their mission, and how much longer could they evade the Jarek? As the stars streaked past the viewport, Lyra made a silent vow. No matter the cost, she would see this journey through, to protect Earth, to save her people, and to uncover the truth about herself. The betrayal weighed heavily on the group as they prepared for their final destination, Earth. Callan had uncovered that one of the Varith crew members, a communications officer named Valen, had been secretly transmitting their coordinates to the Jarek. Confronted in the ship's control room, Valen confessed bitterly, his voice tinged with desperation. "You think hiding the Solithar will save us? It won't. The Jarek will never stop hunting us until we're all dead." Sorrel stepped forward, her expression cold and unyielding. "Then you've doomed not just us, but an entire planet." With swift precision, she deactivated Valen's access to the ship's systems, ensuring he could cause no further harm. The traitor was confined to quarters under heavy guard, but the damage was done. The Jarek were already en route to Earth. Lyra felt a pang of guilt. She couldn't help but wonder if her presence had brought this danger upon humanity. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice trembling. Callan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We finish what we started. The shard has led us back to Earth. It's time to retrieve the full artifact." Using data collected during their journey, Elise pinpointed the Solithar's location beneath the ocean floor near Lyra's research site. It lay buried deep within a trench, protected by ancient mechanisms designed to deter intruders. The team devised a risky plan. While Sorrel and Kalen would engage the Xeric fleet above ground, Elise and Lyra would descend into the trench using modified submersibles equipped with Verith technology. As they approached Earth's atmosphere, the sight of the Xeric armada filled them with dread. Dozens of sleek, insectoid ships loomed ominously, their weapons trained on the Verith vessel. Sorrel took command, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Prepare for combat. We'll hold them off as long as we can." The battle erupted in flashes of light and deafening explosions. Sorrel maneuvered the ship with unmatched skill, dodging enemy fire while launching counterattacks. Kalen coordinated defensive maneuvers from the bridge, his calm demeanor masking the urgency of their situation. Meanwhile, Elise and Lyra descended into the depths, their submersibles cutting through dark waters illuminated only by bioluminescent creatures. Reaching the trench, they found themselves face to face with the Solither, an enormous crystal embedded in the seabed, pulsating with an otherworldly glow. Surrounding it were intricate carvings depicting scenes of creation and destruction, remnants of the ancient beings who had crafted it. Elise marveled at its beauty, but Lyra felt something else entirely, a connection so profound it took her breath away. "Activate it," Elise urged, handing Lyra a device designed to interface with the artifact. "It responds to your energy." Hesitantly, Lyra touched the crystal. Instantly, visions flooded her mind. Galaxies forming and collapsing, civilizations rising and falling, and finally, the faces of those who had entrusted the Solither to Earth. They spoke directly to her, their voices echoing like whispers in a dream. "Asterisk wisely asterisk," they warned. *4 power unchecked can destroy as easily as it creates asterisk. Tears streamed down Lyra's face as she understood the weight of her responsibility. Activating the Solither required immense psychic energy, which only someone of her dual heritage could provide. But doing so came at a cost. Her own life force would be drained in the process. Above the surface, the battle raged on. Just as the Xeric breached the Verith ship shields, a blinding light erupted from the ocean below. A shimmering barrier expanded outward, enveloping the planet in protective energy. The Xeric fleet recoiled, unable to penetrate the shield. Their retreat was swift but costly. They left behind wreckage and unanswered questions. Back aboard the ship, Kalen and Sorrel watched in awe as the barrier stabilized. When Elise emerged from the submersible carrying a weakened Lyra, relief washed over them. Though exhausted, Lyra managed a faint smile. "We did it," she whispered. But the victory came with sacrifice. Lyra knew her journey wasn't over yet, not until she decided whether to embrace her role as a bridge between worlds or return to the life she once knew.